You're listening to Drinks and a Movie with your host, Rudy. Spoiler alert.
Drinks and a Movie podcast. Yo, thanks for tuning in and checking out this latest episode. In this special episode, I have an interview / discussion with actor Daniel Villarreal, aka Little Puppet from American Me. This will be on the YouTube channel, so if you're not subscribed to that channel yet, find us on YouTube, and this will be posted there in video form with pictures and everything. So please go check that out. Make sure you subscribe and like it. In this episode, we dig into his acting career, how he got his first roles in Stand and Deliver, in American Me. We talk about his part in Speed, his background in photography, and we really dig into a big conversation about all things cinema. You know, he's a really big cinephile, so we talk about a lot of foreign films. He gives me some hot takes on Quentin Tarantino and Parasite. So it's a really good, fun conversation. I had a blast chatting with him and having him in the studio. For this one, I poured a dram of Sierra Norte Oaxacan whiskey, the yellow corn expression. I don't talk about it too much in this episode because I already covered that in a previous episode. That is also on YouTube. It's the Master Distiller Doug French episode where we talk about his Mexican whiskey. So make sure you go check that out. And also, I highly suggest it if you haven't seen it yet, that you go to the YouTube channel and watch the interview with Danny De La Paz, aka Big Puppet. Okay, this acts as like a good kind of companion piece of that because we reference it quite a few times, and it's interesting to hear, you know, some of the parallel stories from both points of view. So definitely watch that if you haven't seen that yet. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this episode. Thanks for listening, and make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. Cheers. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's see. I just wanted to ask to start this conversation, you know, get into your career, what you've been doing, how you got into filmmaking, acting. And then I learned recently that you're actually a photographer as well. So I guess to begin all this and kind of set us up for the discussion, did you always know that you wanted to be involved in films, whether it be behind the camera or in front of the camera? And how did you set about starting?
I guess it all began when I was a little kid. And we'll start at the beginning. My uncle used to sell encyclopedias, you know, the Encyclopedia Britannica. And he would set up in the lobby of, like, you know, movie theaters. So when I was a little kid, one time he took me with him. And while he was doing his thing in the lobby, I went inside where the movie was. And I had never seen a movie on a big screen before. At home, I think at that point we didn't even have a TV. So I used to watch TV at neighbors or friends or other family's place. But walking in that theater and then seeing that big image, it was just, I mean, that was it. You know, it's like from that moment on, something that I wanted to talk about. The main thing that I wanted to talk about is how everything we do influences what we become and what we end up doing, and everything that's out there influences us to become whoever we end up being. And for me, it was to begin with, it was movies, TV. I did a little bit of drawing when I was a kid. You know, at first I wanted to be an architect, actually, and that never happened. But I do kind of implement all of those ideas in what I do. So like everything that has ever happened to me, I mean, it sounds kind of like, narcissistic, but everything that has ever happened to me has made me who I am. And so whenever I'm doing something like this, what we're doing now, it requires a certain kind of focus.
Yeah.
That normally in life we don't have that kind of focus, but when I just zoom in on a specific thing, I sort of become like an archaeologist, where I set up a little space and then I just totally involve myself in like digging up that one little bone,
Yeah.
So for me, it begins in that movie theater when I was a little kid watching that movie. And what it did to me, how it affected me, how it took me out of just being a little kid and transported me to like a whole other space, I remember I didn't even want to leave the theater that night, because I wanted to see more. And from that moment on, it's just like every opportunity I got, I would go to the movies. I think, well, I don't even know what my record would be, but I I have watched like 10 movies in a day, or
Oh wow.
maybe
Okay.
even more. I mean, just like sometimes, I'm a binger. I can watch a whole series over a weekend. I did that with like The Sopranos. Like
Okay.
every episode.
Hmm.
But so I'm able to do that. I've seen so many movies and shows, and from the beginning of time to now, like what's going on now.
Hmm.
I just take it, I take it all in. And so anyway, so that's how I started out. You know, that's how I got involved in doing creative stuff. And so you can just bring it all up to this point. Like there is a through line from that moment to this moment. I can visually, I can remember that night and how I felt.
Wow.
And at the beginning, I was drawn into it visually. Like I wanted to be a cinematographer,
Okay.
you know, and because I was a photographer, I started out when I was like 14, shooting. By the time I was 16, I was doing shooting concerts, for
Hmm.
a newspaper called La Opinion. My friend of mine, mentor, had a column that he wrote for La Opinion called Rock y Ondas. And so he would take me to all the concerts that he would be covering
Hmm.
and reviewing. So I would end up shooting photos for him. So at first, my interest was through the camera. Like everything I watched, I would always look at it as like, how did they shoot it? All the angles and the motions and the lighting and then all the different styles of cinematographers,
Hmm.
filmmakers. I love it all. It's like Russian films, Japanese, Italian, the French New Wave.
Yeah.
The impressionist. It's just like to this day, the way people are working now. I mean, the technology that we have is just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I follow it all, and then personally, I never intended to be an actor, you know, but I just sort of kind of like stumbled into it. That people started asking me to get in front of the camera, and having been a shooter, I kind of knew what they were looking for,
Right.
so I gave that to them.
I mean, yeah. I mean, now we're getting into you getting behind the camera. I can ask so much about
Sure.
what movies specifically that you like loved at that time, but
Right.
maybe well, yeah. Let's just get into that real quick before we get a little deeper. Like, do you remember? Because you're saying you like the full spectrum of films. Like, are there any particular like few that really stood out to you that impacted you, even to this day?
Right. Well, I guess another thing that I do, that I have done, that I continue to do, is I'm an editor. I am constantly editing. Like, what's my favorite band? Who's my favorite
Hmm.
guitarist? What's the best color? And then I just kind of like have lists and lists and lists, and like what's the best film is different from what's my favorite film. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then there's mainstream stuff, and then there's stuff that's like a lot of people don't know about
Yeah.
or don't have the patience for. And then there's some stuff like I consider most of Hollywood like a kid with a coloring book,
Okay.
and then just by the numbers, and then all these little pretty little pictures. But then there's the real filmmaking, where it's like a Picasso. It's
Yeah.
like when you go from like a little kid drawing and then a master. That's the difference between with some films and some filmmakers.
Yeah.
And the filmmakers that I love are like Tarkovsky, and a lot of people don't know Tarkovsky or can't sit through one of his movies because they're like long and boring.
Yeah.
But I could just sit through,
Yeah.
And my favorite filmmaker is Bresson, French guy.
Hmm.
And my favorite film is Balthasar, Alcazar Baltasar, and it's the movie's about a donkey and how he follows this animal and what the people do to it, and it's like a commentary on society.
Okay.
And to me, it's like the best fucking movie ever made.
Yeah.
Can I say? Can I curse?
Yeah, you can. That's okay. Yeah, I should have said beforehand. Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. I still, okay. Yeah, Tarkovsky is a filmmaker that I have not dug into yet, and I want to.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen a lot of clips and images, and a lot of people
Yeah.
talk about it, especially in the world like cinematography and
Yeah.
kind of the auteur cinema.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know I need to go buy a bunch of Blu-rays and just sit
Right.
through. I feel like it's going to be a little daunting.
It's
but
you know
I'll
it's
do it.
okay. It's like you see the influence
Mhm.
in a lot of the stuff that you watch. I mean, I've seen so much stuff. Like I rarely get past like 5 minutes of anything.
Okay.
I already go, oh, it's this, it's that.
Right.
Oh, it's gonna end like that, and I just get bored, But like, you see, you go, oh, that's so and so, that's so and so, oh, that, whether they know it consciously or not, it's like they're being influenced by something. And some people are really good at it, because like, a lot of people say this, like there's nothing new and everything's been done and everybody steals from everybody, but there's a way to do it, where you're where you're paying like homage to someone and not like just ripping them off, So I guess, maybe another time we can talk about Tarantino.
Yeah.
I don't like him at all.
Really?
Not at all.
None of the work. You like Robert Rodriguez?
No, sorry.
No, that's
But yeah, I'll just say like one little thing about it. It's just like if you can picture cinema, as a house that everybody has built, that different directors have done. Like somebody did the roof, somebody did the windows, and it's like this collective thing of this incredible house. The way I see Tarantino is like he came into the house, he brought in a blue sofa, and then said, "I built this house."
Yeah. You have the best analogies so far. Like when you were talking, like from that, and when you were talking about how Hollywood is like a kid with a coloring book, and that's the best way I've ever heard it put, and I completely agree. Like you said, there's movie like and it's like like the Marvel stuff, and I talked about it on the show. Like I don't think they're great, amazing movies, but they're entertaining. It's not like I don't like it.
I love entertainment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of movies that I love that are just fun. And I'm totally against guns and war and all that, but I love war movies.
Right.
Like Black Hawk Down. I love that movie. Guns of Navarone. It's just like Saving Private Ryan. It's just like there's stuff. Dunkirk. That's a recent one.
Dunkirk was great.
I love Dunkirk.
Yeah, I recently rewatched it for the first time since the theater, and I liked it in theaters, but I don't think I really appreciated how good that movie really is. You like Paths of Glory, Kubrick?
Oh yeah,
Paths of Glory is so good.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. But then I go back to like I'm not for war, and all that.
Yeah.
But I understand. It's just like storytelling,
Yeah.
And then if you are not judgmental about something, you can appreciate it. Like I know that Quentin Tarantino is very good at putting movies together.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think he has anything to say ever. It's like he's the kid in the video store. I know I'm dumping on Tarantino and the people get really pissed when I do that sometimes. But he worked in a video store.
Yeah.
And if you can picture it, it's like you have aisles and rows of all sorts of movies, and he's like, "Ooh, I can put a little bit of this with a little bit of that, and then and I'm gonna put some gangster shit on." But it's like the dude ain't gangster,
right?
He's a geek.
Yeah.
It's just like he's a cartoon.
Right.
Thank you. Hello. And what I don't like about it is that so many kids worship the dude.
Yeah.
And like don't put in the work. Like when you're a gangster, it's like you put in the work.
Right.
None of these people have put in the work. I have another thing about like tattoos and stuff, It's just like people used to earn them.
Right.
You couldn't just have a tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
And now everybody looks like a, fucking like, map
Yeah.
of the world,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, where did you get that for? Like, so that's like my private opinion that, becomes public. That is like, for me, everything has meaning.
Yeah.
And so when you come to me with something, I'm always like, oh, really? That's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With you, are there any, with you coming from a photography background and even wanting to originally maybe get into cinematography, are there any particular films that stick out to you, like photographically, or that you look at and you're like, wow, there is, like you said, so much meaning in this image, in this composition, in this,
Right.
picture?
Well, it's just like you start out with the silent films, and then there's the greats, whatever. There's the people that uh, invented cinema. There's Eisenstein.
Yeah. Yeah.
That dude. His cinematographer. Um, and then the German expressionists.
You got like
Fritz
Fritz
Lang.
Lang.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That brought their sensitivity to America and with film noir, which I love.
Hmm.
And then again, not necessarily agree with those kinds of people, the gangsters per
Yeah.
se, but it changed the way that movies were made in this country. It brought it to a different level. But yeah, that look,
Hmm.
those guys. But even more so at a certain point with the French New Wave,
Yeah.
with Godard and
Hmm.
Truffaut and all those people. Melville, I love Melville. Le Samurai, if you if
I
you
haven't seen
if
that
you
one.
haven't seen,
No.
you gotta
Yeah.
see Le
Okay.
Samurai. That the way they shot things was just like, it's like religious almost, and with Raoul Godard, who was Godard's guy.
Hmm.
I learned something new, which was about natural light and finding the light source, because
Hmm.
he shot almost all natural light stuff, and developing a relationship to the light, to where it's coming from, and what it means, and then when it's not there, that it means something. So then, if you see it as a metaphor for life, it's just that what happens in the shadows
Hmm.
is a lot more interesting than what's in the light. You always want to know, like, ooh, what's over there,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's where that takes you, and so that I do that with my own photographs, that I always shot available light,
Hmm.
and no flash. Well, I had a flash because I had to do it like at concert, but I was so bad at it. I had this huge strobe. I was always blinding people with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But what I really like is it's just like really very low lit things that force you to go to that place where the light is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a great way to put it. Since we're on the subject of cinematography right now, and I mean, you got a part in Speed, directed by Jan de Bont, who was a cinematographer, shot Die Hard. Oh, the other movies are slipping my mind right
Yeah,
now,
that's
but
cool.
the man shot Die Hard.
Oh
Did
yeah.
you get to, working with him and he's directing this movie, get to have any discussions with him about that side of
Oh
the
yeah. Oh
industry?
yeah, very much so. The great thing about him was that when we well, first of all, Speed was one of those kind of scripts, before it got made, that were going around town that everybody was passing on. It was
Right.
like it had been in turnaround, several times, I think. And finally, I think it was Fox that 20th Century Fox that ended up picking it up. But I remember when I first read it, I was like, I only have 5 lines.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what is this thing? And I don't think anybody thought it was going to be as big as it was. But having known, knowing that he was directing it, and that he was a cinematographer, for me was like, oh, this is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Not only that, he was a friend of friends. So I knew guys that knew him when he was in school. Back in his homeland. So we had people in common.
Mm.
So I remember the first time when we got on that bus for rehearsals, and the actors are sitting around, the ones that have speaking lines and the ones that don't, and finding their place on the bus. And then here comes John, like with his guys, because he had Bartowiak as his DP, who is also a great DP, and they're over here like pointing, and we're all like we had like 9 cameras or something,
Okay.
and he's all into that, and then he turns and he looks at us and he goes, "Hi," and then he keeps going, and we're like, that's what we're in for. Like he doesn't. His relationship is cinematically to what
Right.
he's doing. So then automatically you go, I'm gonna have to give him a lot of looks because that's what's gonna draw him. So I don't know if you remember the movie. Like I'm always doing little things like looking out, looking in, and then so the camera comes to me, and that's something that I learned from shooting and from looking is that the camera will come to you if you trick it.
Right.
So tricks of the trade, it's just like I always turn away, so it has to come looking for me. So then everybody's drawn to me, without taking attention from
Yeah.
from the scene. But it's like if you picture in your mind that there is only one person looking at you, whoever it is, anywhere on the planet, that you're doing it for that one person. So that's how you focus it. That's how you draw the attention, and then it becomes very small, and you don't have to do much. And that's the thing I learned. Can we jump to something
Yeah.
else?
Yeah. Yeah. Anywhere you want to go.
When I was doing Stand and Deliver, I was a production assistant originally,
Okay.
and I was involved in the whole process because I was like the real deal. I was from East LA, from Boyle Heights. I knew all the artists. At that time there were no cell phones, no. So it was all about who you knew and who you could. It's like your cred. Your credibility is always the same. It's like if somebody says, "Who do you know?" and then you tell them, and you go, "Okay, you're good." That it's still to this day, and it's always been that way. It's just like so. Your cred is your most important asset. So at the time, I had my cred in the hood,
Okay.
and these guys who were doing Stand and Deliver, the director was Cuban and the producer Italian, and they were co-writers, and they had no idea about East Los. So they latched on to me because I did, and so I because of that I was very fortunate to be taken in and become part of this little group, and therefore like I was involved in practically. I mean, I don't want to say everything because obviously, I'm just one of the little people that worked on the movie. But coming back to my point was that I ran the camera when we were doing the casting sessions.
Okay.
And so I looked at all the actors that came in. And then I edited the takes. And then I put aside the ones that they liked. And then I looked at that. And I was looking at everything that everybody was doing. Because at that time, there weren't that many Latino films. So everybody and their mother, literally, like everybody and their mother came in to read for this movie. Like all the Esteveses, the Sheens, like
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
brothers and the sisters, they all came in.
Yeah.
They were all there. And so I noticed what they were all doing, like all their training. And so I learned from them, from that point. I'm like, oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do that. Like you could right away you could tell somebody was a theater person because they were like all
Right.
over the place and big and it was like, you don't have to do very much. The camera picks up every little thing that you do, and so that's sort of like how I became part of that less is more kind of school of acting, where I'm very still, and I do exactly the same thing every time unless somebody tells me to modify it. So if I reach for the cup, I'll reach for the cup every time, same place, put it back. So when people are editing, they have something to work with.
Yeah.
And so, also, it's like as you get older or whatever, as you come along, you learn different things. Some on your own, some that people teach you. And so it's just like oh, okay. I know I'm all over the place, but like the old school stereos.
Yeah.
where you go from 1 to 10 and the volume,
Yeah.
and usually like 3 or 4, you're good. 10 is like, you're nuts. But when I would read a script, for the script itself, and then specifically for my part, I would calibrate it on that 1 to 10 scale. So that I know, like, in this scene I'm a 2 as far as my emotions and everything, and over here I'm a 4, and you rarely get to a 10 because it's like that's like, I'm doing opera or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so that when you're shooting, even though it's so intimate, it seems like it's just you and me. While I'm doing this and the camera's on me, there's like 60 to 100 people all around me having snacks over there, and
Yeah.
there's the sound guy, and then there's a boom, and there's
Yeah.
lights, and like we have right now.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of all that, you're still concentrated on this moment, and then all that just disappears. Have you seen those golf movies? I think they do it more than everything else, where the guy's trying to do his little thing, and then he just makes everything disappear.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've seen those
Yeah.
those shots, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Like, just everybody disappears. I've like ran into people who go, "Oh yeah, I was your driver I'm like, "You were?" Because I would just block all that out, and
Right.
it'd just be, all I did was my thing. I don't remember names or anything or anybody. Just, I was there for that moment. I'm gonna stab this guy on the neck right there. Okay, you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna put my hands right here. That kind of thing, and it's just like the whole world just disappears.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's, coming back again. It's just like going from being someone who is recording something,
Yeah.
like shooting it, to being on the other side, doing, and then saying, how much of me are you seeing? What
Right.
kind of lens do you have?
Yeah.
How are we doing this? How do you want to do it? And then just becoming just like a real person, and then doing your thing. It's a process.
And what was that conversation, like that transition from working within the casting and being a production assistant on that movie to, like, did the director just see, like you said, you were the real thing, you had all the credit, and from there they're just like, hey, can you just do this part? Or did you just kind of, I don't want to say aggressive, or did you kind of go to them and tell them, like, this is not how it's done?
All
Can
right,
you give me a shot?
So let's put a little lid on that, because I know
Okay.
you asked me this other question and then I just went off.
Right.
DeBont,
Yeah.
right? And him being a cinematographer, and me and him. Oh man, that was so great. It was so great. I have all these photographs that I shot on the set. He let me bring my camera. They don't let you do that because, like,
Yeah.
it's distracting. So I was in the middle of the scene, and then it's just like, can you guys wait? And I would do my shot. Oh yeah, I just like talked his ear off while he was setting up, this photographer, that photographer, and he like gave me these great books on photography. One of them was I think he was a Peruvian dude. Obviously, he gave me the Brazilian guy, with those incredible images, Delgado. But there was this other Peruvian, like, turn of the century photographer who would go into the villages and then, like, bring the butcher into his studio and set up like a whole butcher thing, and then take pictures of him. It's just incredible. And then that same guy shot pictures of I think it's Peruvian royalty.
Okay.
So you have these photographs of like 100 people in the room, and they're like, you go, what? There was all this incest in this, like they only intermarried. So a lot of them are like, don't look right, kind of, I don't know if you've read Gabriel Garcia Marquez, but it's kind of like magical realism,
Okay.
where you go, does that person have a tail? Because
Right.
it's kind of like a little weird. But anyway, so it was like an incredible photographer that he turned me on to. And then there was another Japanese photographer that he gave me a book about, that he shot photos in nuclear environments. So like nuclear bombs and reactors. And it was like mind blowing. But anyway, so that was like kind of like my little moment with the Bond was
Yeah.
that we were doing this movie that nobody really had any idea how it was going to do. But in the middle of it, 9 weeks on this bus, actually like 12 buses because they had all the different ones,
Yeah.
riding around LA, having a great time hanging out with Keanu.
Yeah.
At the time he was starting out that band he was in, Dog Star, or is it God Star or Dog Star? I don't know. One or the other. And he'd be in his dressing room practicing bass because that's what he was playing. And I would listen. Like, oh shit, he's into well, at that moment he was into Fugazi, which is like my favorite band. And so we were like, oh man, yeah. And then he'd be like putting on the CD and jamming. And so I hooked him up with like my East LA punk stuff, and I gave him some stuff. And then one day he came and Keanu brought me Sculpting with Time, which is Tarkovsky's book.
Okay.
And he was like, oh, this is one of my favorite directors. I'm like, me too. If you have to see Stalker. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear about that one a lot. And is Mirror one of the other
Mirror,
big ones?
The Mirror. Yeah. It's like he erases the line between being awake and not being awake, and between the past and the present. There's like this space where it's all fluid and all happening at the same time. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. But anyway, so doing the movie Speed, hanging out with Keanu, who's a great guy, of course, and then with the Bond. And then also at the same time, I was collaborating with a friend on trying to do a movie about Cypress Hill.
Okay.
They had just brought out that album that had Insane in the Membrane. This is like a great album. And so I'm doing this movie, and then I'm trying to get this other movie made that we thought it was going to be like a really cool thing, and in the end it was about money. Like it was going to cost them too much money, so they said no. But we were like, that's this close to making that happen. So it's really exciting, living in the moment. It's like that's another thing of what I've learned. I'm 60 now. Of just being here.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting across from you, and we're in this room. And this is it. And so you kind of forget about everything else, and you're just here. And then everything else will just take care of itself. But in this moment that we're just sitting here, we can talk about the past, and we can talk about the future, and we can go all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just here sitting in a room,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then Stand and Deliver.
Yeah. I'm just like so sucked into listening to everything. There's a part of me that I almost just like, let's just talk about all kinds of movies now.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
We could. Like, why not? So Stand and Deliver, because I was a photographer. When I turned 18, I started working for the school district as a teacher's assistant. And then there I met a guy, my friend, now I've known him since then, Sean Carrillo, who was also artistic-minded person like I was. We had a lot in common. So he introduced me to Teresa Covarrubias, a dear friend of his, who was the lead singer for a band, East LA punk band called The Brat. And so I started hanging out with them, and then I sort of became like their photographer. So I if you look it up, the Brat did a EP, a 10-inch, not the 12-inch LP, but a 10-inch. Mm-hmm. And I shot the covers, the front and the back.
Oh, sick.
So this was in 1980. Mm-hmm. And it was produced by Tito Larriva for Fatima Records, and Tito Larriva was the lead singer for a band called The Plugs, another, like punk band. So because I was friends with Teresa, starting like in 79, in 84, her and I were hanging out, and these people were interested in talking to her about her band. They were doing a documentary on East LA bands. And the guy who was directing it was a professor from UCLA, and he had an assistant with him, and that was Ramon Menendez, who later ended up directing Stand and Deliver. So this was in 84. And Ramon was like, hey, and we were like, oh God, this guy. And for like a couple of years, he kept coming around saying he was going to make a movie. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. And then finally, like in '86, he came with the script. The script was called Walking on Water, you know, and that ended up being, Stand and Deliver. Like they changed the name later.
Yeah.
But I remember reading the script and it's just like getting goosebumps and going, oh crap, this is it. This is the one. This is the story,
Yeah.
And then, after reading it and saying, to him and to Tom Muska, whatever I can do, whatever we can do, whatever everybody I know, whatever they can do, we'll do it, And so I hooked up all of my friends, everybody that I knew. I was just like, you have to do something for this movie, It's like because backtracking a little bit again. It's just like when I was around 14 and I became a photographer. I had a mentor named Bill Maxwell, who was the director at All Nations Neighborhood Center in Boyle Heights. Bill got me into photography, and Bill also gave me a job there at the center. And so my training since I was 14 has been community based. Everything about the community, doing something for the community. So everything I do up to this point, even now, is community based.
Yeah.
It's all like Stand and Deliver. It's always like looking for like the next Stand and Deliver, and then putting everything into it, because it's not just a film. It changes how people look at us. And so I'm always looking. I'm always looking for the next whatever. I'm on social media, all the time, and people, oh God, why are you on social? Because that's how I meet people like you.
Yeah.
That's how we met. It's just like, I think it's really important to support all of that. And where it's going, it doesn't really matter. What only matters is like right now.
Yeah.
This moment, it will create something else.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that idealistic, but I hope maybe somebody will look at it and go, oh, I can do this. Or they're already doing it and then go, oh, I want to do something with you,
Yeah.
And so, anyway, so that's part of it. So Stand and Deliver was kind of like a starting point. But I had already met Eddie Olmos prior to that.
Okay.
Not as like, that he would remember me, but I had been in his presence, back in '78 when he was doing the play at the Mark Taper Forum that Luis Modest was directing, Zoot Suit, I was 17 still, because I was in '78, and I was born in November, so I have a birthday like late in the year. So '78, I was still like 17, and I was already shooting, but I was still part of my hood. I was in the hood. And at All Nations, there was this lady, Lily Villegas. Her brother was actually one of the real people who were part of that Sleepy Lagoon case.
Okay.
That the play was based on. So I think it was opening night. And I'm not sure, but Danny De La Paz talks about how he went straight from Boulevard Nights to that.
To go see it.
I think we were all there that night.
Yeah.
Without knowing,
Right.
we were all at the same place.
Yeah.
And it was a variation on that first time when I went into the movies. It was the first time I was at a play, a live performance. And seeing that specific play, I don't know if you're familiar with it. They redid it, recently,
Yeah.
and then they made back then they filmed it, but it's not that great of a film. But you still see some of it. But being there, being in front of, being part of this audience of like supercharged, Chicanos, and it's just like, it's like, as like Danny was there. It's just like all these people who were already doing things and ended up doing things were there that night.
Yeah.
And we were looking at ourselves on that stage. It was just like incredible. It's just like great acting, great costumes, great music. And then there was Eddie Olmos as Pachuco. I mean, my jaw was like,
Yeah.
I was like, I had never seen anything like that. He was electrifying,
Mm.
You're just like, you see him and you go, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to do that. And then because I was there with Lily, she took me backstage, after it was over. And then, he shook my hand and signed my program, which I still have somewhere. So that was 78. And then next time I saw him was in 87 when we were set up at KCT in Hollywood at the, that's where we had our offices for Stand and Deliver.
Hmm.
And he walked in and then it was like, wow, we got something here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he should I tell you more about Stand Deliver or you want to?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Let's keep going. I was just gonna say it's amazing because I think that shows how important it is to, I think, be represented and people like doing the art and putting it out there for everyone to see. Because like you mentioned, it's like to think that all these people, like you guys didn't even know each other yet, were in the room probably all in the same night. And who knows how many other people that went on to do great things, whether it be within the film industry or other, but that like had such an impact,
Yeah.
And then the craziness of then all the like those same people would go and like end up working together
Yeah.
at some point in the future. And then you guys all made a big impact, and now we're here talking about, like you said, like
Yeah.
how it all leads up
Yeah.
to this moment.
And there have been other people who had the same moment that we did.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those moments was like when the Sex Pistols played Manchester,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody was there. All the kids, Morrissey, Susie and the Banshees, like all those people were there, and they saw this, and they were all like, "I can do this."
Yeah, yeah,
It was the same kind of feeling of like it's just like that spark,
Mhm.
and it comes out of nowhere, and then after that, it's like there's wildfire, And I'm sure Danny mentioned it, but we're sitting there that night. He's doing Boulevard Nights. And Danny already knows about American Me,
yeah,
which was written in 1973, and by 78, 79, at one point like Al Pacino was going to play the lead,
Hmm.
and so Danny was under the impression that he was going to play Little Puppet, but because it took that many more years later, by the time it got rolling again, he was too old for Little Puppet. Yeah, I mean, how old is he? Like 80? No, he's not 80.
Yeah.
But he couldn't play Little Puppet anymore, and then that part came to me. So in '89, after having done Stand and Deliver, I'm flying back from Miami with Eddie from having done Miami Vice. I'm flying back to LA, and he says, we're going to do American Me. This is like 2 years before.
Mhm.
And again, this community-based thing, He said, we're going to, I'm going to need you. I'm like, yeah, whatever, man, So from that point on until it happened, there were all these like meetings and stuff. He met with the Mexican mafia, with corrections.
Mhm.
And it was like just being a part of it. And then, because I had done Stand and Deliver, and you would say, oh, yeah, he's going to be in it,
Yeah,
And so my understanding, I mean, from that point on, my understanding was that I was going to play Little Puppet. But then, you get to then when the studio is having to okay, I had to wait until it was offered to name actors, and then they, wanted too much money or whatever.
yeah,
And then the part coming back to me. But then after that, it was like Danny ended up playing my brother,
Mhm.
And of course I knew who he was, but we had never worked together, because as you know, his story is totally different from mine.
Right.
Came from Whittier, it's like Whittier as we call it. He was in a totally different scene than I was.
Yeah.
And so when I learned that he was going to play my brother, I was like, oh great, he's cool. He did Boulevard Nights.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other story. Like how we met and what I did to him. That so that he and I could get to that point that he didn't want to face, and that was killing me.
Yeah.
Everything led up to that, and I knew, and we sort of went through the whole thing so that we could end up there, and like me knocking on his door and saying, "You have to come out. We have to do this," and
Right.
he's not
Yeah.
wanting to do it,
Yeah.
even on that day. And like we did more than 20 takes,
Yeah.
and we got it there. Yeah.
And I remember him mentioning that. Did you guys both have to do the whole ADR thing after, or was that just him? I mean, imagine it was
Yeah.
both of you, right?
Yeah. We, I mean, I don't know about we hate ADR
Yeah.
because the way that I work, um, I hate auditioning, and part of why I don't really do acting anymore is that whole side of it, the business side of it. And I could give you examples like now that everything's available. Remember the Shield,
Mm.
the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you look at the extras, they give you the casting sessions, and you see all the actors auditioning, and some of them are not very good, and then some of them are like incredible, like they're really great
Mm-hmm.
at auditioning. But when you get to filming, that's a whole other monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so my approach to doing that is that everywhere I go, there's an energy, like there's an energy in here,
Mm-hmm.
and then I plug into it. So I don't know what I'm gonna do until I get there. When we got to Folsom, and they put me in that cell, like they made us be in our cell for a day. Oh man, it's just like it kicked my ass
Mm.
because you get to feel the immensity of the pain in that place. I met a guy who had been there since 1969. This was 91. And he's like, remember me, and I still remember the dude. There's a part I want to play. I want to play his part.
Hmm.
And I'm still looking. There's a couple of them out there that, of a lifer
Yeah.
who finally comes out. Like, I'm looking for that part.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm there, when I'm at Folsom, and then I feel the weight of it, it's like that stupid little script just goes out the door. It's just like,
Right.
It's like I was saying, like the kid with the coloring book.
Yeah.
The script becomes a little coloring book, and the real thing now is there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, okay, what are you gonna do? So I again, it's like TV and the business and the Emmys and the Grammys and all that is good, but when it comes down to doing something that really will have any kind of lasting kind of thing, it's not about any of that. So again, getting Danny to that place, to that point, to that moment, to that day when he has to kill me,
Mm-hmm.
and doing it. I mean, it was so hard. It was really hard for him. And I put him through the ringer, to get him there. It's like my plan was to annoy him. From the moment I met him, I annoyed him. I ignored him.
Mm-hmm.
I made friends with some other guy. He thought we were gonna be like brothers. I was like,
Yeah.
He wanted to rehearse. He had his script with all these notes and different color little things on it, like for whatever. And he'd be looking at me. He goes, "Where's your script?" I go, "Ah," and he'd be like get all mad.
Yeah.
And then we're doing a scene or whatever, and then I say, "What's my line?" And he would get so mad because I didn't know my lines. He thought I was a slacker. But it was just like a plan for a thing to have him get to that place where it was like he has to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
And when we finally ended up doing it, it's just like it was so hard. I mean, I don't know if you remember the scene, but there's that moment where my eyes roll back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they actually roll back because I passed out.
Oh, okay.
My feet were like going like this, and then they were whispering to him, "Let him go, let him go," because he actually was like
Yeah.
strangling me.
Dang.
And he was like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "Don't worry, just keep doing it." So after we were done with that, I had like these bumps on the back of my neck for like 3 months, from the ropes.
Yeah.
Because he was going. I'm like, don't just go for it, It's just like it was a trip,
Yeah.
And that's why it has that quality because it meant that much.
Yeah.
and it had to. And it goes back to why we do what we do. It's like, um, for whatever reason, why I ended up hooking up with Eddie, and for that brief moment between Stand and Deliver and American Me, that we were close, because there was something I was like. It was kind of like what I did for Danny, he was doing for me.
Yeah.
Like he needed me to do what I did so that his movie could have the impact that it did. It's
Yeah.
like people relate to Little Puppet.
Mm-hmm.
It's not me. It's that moment, that kid, that thing. And it's just like when he dies, it. I've had like hard dudes who've done time go, man, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's like because those kind of guys know what it means when you have to do something like that. And it's those guys. It's like, we did American Me after having done Stand Deliver, which was such a positive thing.
Yeah.
And then Eddie says, "I want to do this," and we're like, "Oh fuck!" We're gonna get hit on this thing. It's like, because on the surface, it seems like such a negative film, but people don't realize. Now they do more than back then. That the movie was not about that life. The movie was about what could be.
Mm-hmm.
It was about Evelina. It was about this.
Yeah.
It was about the hope. That Eddie. I'm not sure if people realize that in the movie the real time it's like 5 minutes, and it's him putting away his stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he knows he's about to get killed.
Yeah.
And he's reminiscing, and then everything's like a memory.
Mm-hmm.
And he's that letter that he writes to her, saying, "You opened my eyes." That's what the movie is about.
Yeah.
But people miss that.
Yeah.
Because they wanted, Danny talked about like Daniel LaPaz talked about how people were angry about Boulevard Nights, and they had already made up their minds.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was kind of the same with American Me. People were like, "Oh, we're so fucking sick of these gang things," And to me, American Me is even more important than Stand and Deliver. Personally, I think it's a much better film in that regard. That it has. Both movies have legs. I mean, Stand and Deliver. It's a great film. I'm so lucky to be a part of both of them. But American Me goes much deeper. It has more guts than that other film, because it deals with this. With this with that world, with those men. I don't know if you sort of grew up in that environment, but it's just like my environment as a kid was super like macho world, like patriarchal, it's like men, it's men's world, like James Brown says, this is a man's world, where it's like the women were over there in the kitchen, and it's just like you didn't talk, it's just like I remember being little and having to kiss somebody's feet, the man, the patriarch guy, I was like, what the fuck, even as a kid, you're like, that's a gross feet,
Yeah.
But it's like, that's kind of like where we came from, growing up. It's just like, you have to be hard. You have to be, you know what I mean? You can't be soft. And it's like, these are all the qualities that Little Puppet had. He was soft. He didn't belong in that world.
Yeah.
And then because he didn't belong in that world, his brother had to take him out,
Yeah.
And that's sort of like, that side of our community, of our society that we keep killing,
Yeah.
And so that's what that thing was about.
Yeah.
So, and it seems that people had come around to it, it's like, even like in colleges now, they show the movie,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But back then, man, it was bad reception to it,
Yeah. I mean, if I could talk about like performance for a moment here, which, sorry, there's like a fly in here. I don't know where that is. It's really annoying. Sorry, it keeps getting in our faces. That whole scene, and I think your work in that movie, like, sorry, I'm gonna like hype the hell out of you right now, but it's so good. And I've talked about it in a previous episode where a friend and I talked about American Me. Your whole scene where you have to go into kill, is it Chico Pena, the
Chaco,
other guy?
yeah.
Yeah, is so powerful. The way all like both you and Danny, and I think I talked with him a little bit about it too. When you guys are walking in, and this is what one of like this shot has always stuck out to me, even like as a kid. Like I always remember this is one of those meaningful shots without words, right? Is when you sit down, like everyone's gonna watch the Woody Woodpecker. You sit down, you and Danny are walking in, you're down, the camera's on you, the lights go out, you're silhouetted, the screen comes on, and then you just see like you're tearing up because you know you got to do it. And it's like such a powerful image. The performance there is so good. And then when Danny like grabs your hand and there's that close up and he's just like, let me do it. And then there's that moment where you kind of suck it up and you're just like, no, I'm going to do it. And you go for it, man. Like I applaud you on that performance so much. Like I can't talk about that scene enough.
Thank you,
It's
brother.
so good.
Well, let's talk about that scene. Yeah. So, a little while ago, I was telling you about the place, the energy,
Yeah.
being at Folsom. We had access to the inmates. They let us use some of the inmates. And so, specifically in that scene that we are talking about now in this room, I'm surrounded by these guys, right? And there goes the fly.
Yeah.
And so I'm surrounded by these guys. So then, what happens is, again, it's just like the level of focus and the energy. I take all of that energy from these guys. And we were talking about it before, like that you don't have to do very much.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about, the little crying thing, it just, everybody's just shut up. And I felt that I had all of them,
Yeah.
like they were all there with me. So we're doing the scene, and in filmmaking, like you shoot it, you do it over and over for so many different reasons. Eddie kept saying, "Can you do it again?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Can you do it again?" "Yeah." It's like, because I had to cry every time. And again, we did it like 20 times, whatever. And so he kept saying, "Do you have one more?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then it's just like. It's just because I was feeding off of them, so let's go, let's do it, and again, it's like what we were talking about before, is that it's like a ritual. So it's like you say, we come in, we bring you in a certain kind of way, we come down, my hands go down, like I'm going like this on my legs, like,
Yeah.
and so the camera goes there. And then, Danny comes like, right, he puts his hand on, like that whole thing, what you're saying. And then it's just like, because I'm not made for that,
Yeah.
that character. It's like Little Puppet's not a killer, but he becomes the killer, and then when he does it, he gets off on it. It's just like the blood, the whole thing.
Yeah.
That it affects him, it's just like, when I look at him like afterwards, he said he caught me.
Yeah.
It's just like, ew, like I don't like him.
Yeah. He's kind of got that smile, like now he's excited. by it.
He did that, and it's just like he just signed his own death warrant.
Yeah. Well, one other aspect I like about that character is like that is an interesting moment where there's almost that like bloodlust kind of look, but then later on, I feel like he always still held on to who he was before, because even when he gets out, he gets married, and there's a whole talk when he's drunk, and he's kind of what Edward James Olmos eventually comes to realize, right? Where he's talking about, I do this just to be bad. It's not worth it. Don't go out there just to, like, I used to give the baddest tattoos. Like, now I can't do shit. Sorry, I'm like doing an impression. You're like,
go for it. Go for
it. But it just like, it just comes back to me.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it all gets kind of from there. That's the catalyst to everything getting ruined. But, it's like you always had like the right kind of mind, of like not wanting to be there, realizing that it's not.
Yeah, well, he was always a tragic dude,
Yeah.
It wasn't going to end well. I'm not saying it, but I'm saying it. is that the inspiration was Fredo, you know, in The Godfather. He doesn't belong there either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he ends up getting killed because he's the same kind of, he's a goof.
Yeah. Just
And
not for him.
we could go on and on about John Cazale because he's my favorite actor.
Mm-hmm.
The things that he did, what he could do, and it's like something that Danny De La Paz has that he talked about when he was cast in Boulevard Nights, is that the casting director saw
Yeah.
something,
Mm-hmm.
and that when you have something like that, it comes through, and John Cazale was that type of human being.
Yeah.
He's like that hush puppy, the dog with the
Yeah.
little sad eyes. It's just like that's him.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And so when I'm doing that, I'm thinking about that. Like
Mhm.
that's who I was thinking about. Because like when I did Stand and Deliver, I was thinking about um, Roman Polanski in Chinatown.
Mm.
He's a badass little guy.
Yeah,
He cuts his
yeah.
nose. I was thinking about him when I was doing that part.
Interesting.
Because
Okay.
he's just so intense. And like.
Yeah.
Ramon like couldn't believe that I'd be able to stand up to Lou Diamond Phillips because he's bigger than me, and I guess Ramon saw that character in Stand Deliver as like a
Yeah.
a tough guy, not like the smaller, just like
Mhm.
um. Could I talk about that a little bit
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Stand Deliver
Yeah.
and being an actor? Um, I had less experience. It was like my first film in the way that it was for Danny in Boulevard Nights. So I had been performing, but this was my first movie, and so I only knew a certain way of how to prepare to do it, and then what I did is like I stopped eating, and I only smoked cigarettes and drank coffee, and then I slept dressed with a blanket on, like really hot, to
Mhm.
be really uncomfortable. So it put me in this really pissed off place,
Hmm.
that I was in, and so I drew from that to be able to do what I did. And when I look at it, I see all the things that I did wrong, but there's a certain kind of intensity to that character. It's like he doesn't blink. You know what I mean? He's just like, and that's the power that he has.
Yeah.
It's not that he's a big, you know, like the way that cholos look now with the bald head and all
Yeah.
the tattoos, but he has that like he's gonna kill you. He'll kill you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
and so, but on the other hand, also with that character with Stan Deliver, my character was called Chuco. Nobody ever says my name because Eddie calls me the Finger Man,
Yeah.
but the name of the character is Chuco. And Danny's character in Boulevard Nights is Chuco.
Yeah.
So we're both Chucos. And the way that I looked at it is like Chuco came from Pachuco. So I played that character with the dignity that Eddie did, the Pachuco in his play. There's a still from Stand Deliver where I'm standing in the hallway, and the way I'm dressed and the way I'm standing, to me it was like exactly the same thing. Like everything you wore, the way you presented yourself had meaning. In that photo, I have my bandana wrapped around my head. Like that usually meant there would be spray paint on that,
Mhm.
and that's what you would get high on. And I have that, and then I'm holding my cigarette, and I'm at school, which is like you don't do that. Like they'll kick you out.
Yeah.
It's like that's the level of this kid is that he doesn't give a fuck
Mhm.
what you or anybody thinks. He's
Yeah.
gonna he's gonna do what he's gonna do, and that's how he carries himself.
Mhm.
And then it's like I'm wearing the perfect shoes, the shirt just right with my trench coat, and it's like I would challenge you to find any homeboy ever on the planet that would say, "Oh, that looks stupid,"
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
because we took that kind of care to put it together.
Mhm.
And when Danny, I talk about Danny a lot because he's like my brother. When Danny and I talk about movies, because we talk about movies all the time, but when we talk about Stand Up, he goes, "Man, that Lou Diamond Phillips, he's a really good looking dressed cholo." Because I was involved with that,
Mhm.
because I was telling you I was part of the production.
Yeah.
of how he dressed, of picking all the right looks for him. Like it was fun. Like dressing him up. That it's like that is very important. All those details are what makes these movies. What they are. I'm not putting down
Yeah.
fly.
Yes.
I'm not putting down Blood In, Blood Out, but just last week, Danny and I went to a screening of at the New Beverly, which is
Yeah.
Tarantino's place,
Yeah.
of Boulevard Nights back to back with Walk Proud.
Yeah.
They were made at the same time. The way that American Me and Blood In, Blood Out were made at the
Yeah.
same time, and it's all the same people kind of. But there's a difference between the movies. We were saying poor Robbie Benson, in Walk Proud, and it was even so much more painful to watch when you see Boulevard Nights, and then they start rolling Walk Proud in the theater. People were laughing.
Right.
The moment he comes on, they were like, having seen Danny,
Yeah.
and then seeing him, and it was like, poor guy. Because Danny had the benefit of having all the real cholos, like I surrounded myself with the homies in Stand and Deliver to bring that the realness to it,
Yeah.
Where that Walk Proud and really, Blood In, Blood Out really don't have, because these are all actors,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with being an actor, but it's like me doing Stand and Deliver. I was 26. Playing like, a high schooler. And I had been off doing like cholo stuff for 10 years.
Yeah.
But I had done it.
Yeah.
So it was it's in my DNA. Like I could bring it up. It's like therapy is something else we can talk about at some other time. But therapy is really important for actors because it brings you, it helps you to focus on your feelings, your emotions, which are so important for an actor. But having gone through therapy, and not just therapy, but artistic therapy, like dealing with your creativity. That's what I ended up doing. Like I ended up going in that direction where the last therapist I had was just specifically about owning it, like allowing yourself to say, I'm an artist. That's a really hard thing,
Yeah.
like that you feel like you don't deserve it, kind of thing. So anyway, when I got to that point, as far as my creativity, it's just like you carry. Okay, another movie you should see. I think maybe this was a TV movie, Sybil.
Okay. So,
With the woman with the multiple personalities.
yeah. Yeah.
We, all of us, you and me, we carry all of our different selves, and some go nuts and like they can't tell the difference. But like inside of you, there's a certain little boy, or So for me, I have all these different characters that I carry around, and one of them is the gang member. And the gang member demands certain things from me in my life, like you got to have your tattoos or whatever, and then he wants the look, but like I don't let the gang member in me run my life anymore.
Yeah.
But he's very useful in a lot of ways, like nobody fucks with me, you know what I mean? Because I don't put out that victim thing,
Right.
A lot of people, they just like go, let's go fuck with him,
Yeah.
So they look at me like, oh no, let's no.
Yeah.
So having that, in me, like was helped me to do a good enough performance in Stand and Deliver, of like knowing, nah, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
No, we wouldn't do that. We do this.
And did that definitely help you with, having to go like head to head with Edward James Olmos in some scenes? Because just several years before that, you're seeing him in Awe in Zoot Suit, and now you're there, standing toe to toe with him essentially in your first scene together.
Well, so then there's a story about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's get into that story now. So originally we cast somebody else for the part. I say we because I was involved in the casting. We cast somebody else in the part of Fingerman of the Chuco,
Yeah.
and they were already in rehearsals. And I had been with him out in the hood, hang out, so he could get acclimated to it because again he was an actor,
Yeah.
and I had also worked with Lou on his thing, because he was also not a cholo, he had done La Bamba, and we had seen La Bamba hadn't come out, we had seen La Bamba, and he was so great in it, and I was like, yeah, we gotta have him, he wanted to keep his hair long because he was gonna do. What is it?
Young Guns?
Yeah, Young Guns.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, don't worry about it because it's like, I have long hair now. It's just like, yeah, you're like a wannabe. You're not like a real hardcore cholo. So you can have your ponytail. And I talked to Ramon. I said, yeah, I remember there was a vato. That's how he. Oh, okay. So he kept his hair. So anyway, so I was with the other actor, and we I was like trying to help him out with his part. Then they get to rehearsals, and then what you're talking about happened. He goes up to Eddie, and he can't do it. He can't stand up to him. It's just like, and Eddie, starts coming around saying, "Be ready, be ready, be ready." Like, yeah, ready, whatever. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But one day they're in rehearsal, and they go, "Danny, it's just like everybody's there." And he goes, "I want you to read for that part." It's like, oh. Okay, I because I had been involved with the casting. I mean, I know all the scenes, everything, and then I had also read for the Lou part, like early on, and so Willie and I went in the back of the stage. Willie played Pancho in Stand and Deliver, Will Gotay, and he works with me on the scene. He goes, "Come on, I'll help you," and then we're getting ready because I'm going to come in and I'm going to do this thing with Eddie, And then we're doing that. I know my ones, the twos, the threes.
Yeah.
And then Willie actually came up with this.
Okay.
And I go, "Ooh, could I do that?" He goes, "Yeah, do it." My ones, my twos.
Yeah.
And that just became part of the scene. And then I went in, I ran and go, "You got it." And then the next thing I know, I'm playing the part. But yeah, it's just like as you said. Eddie didn't intimidate me because I had that relationship. I knew what it meant. The actor, the other actor ended up playing his son, his oldest son in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he still stayed in the family, but because I had seen Eddie in '78 do his thing, and because I was part of this thing, and because I knew what we were doing. I was not at all like it was like it was part of my job to do this thing, and it worked out. Yeah, I think.
No, definitely did. Well, before I get into Back to American Me, like how was the New Beverly screening? I'm so bummed that I missed out on it because I'm working every night now, so I couldn't go.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. Well, I had been to the New Beverly, the Beverly, since the '70s. It was like rat infested. But they've always shown those old movies, which for a movie lover, it's like there were several theaters around LA, and there was in the Fox in Venice. There was like where they showed revivals.
Yeah.
And even like the midnight movies. And then early on, they had before MTV, they would have Friday nights where they would show like. Videos of like Elvis Costello, the Pretenders, before they ever got on TV, and so there were all these different places to go see this stuff, and one of them was the New Beverly, the Beverly Cinema. And then when I found out that Tarantino was buying it, I was like, oh fuck, he's gonna fuck it up. Do
you still feel that way though? Because they show some great movies.
Okay, no. So I'm getting to that. So he fucked it up in a way that he shows his crap, Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
His movies and like his sensibility of that, and that he shares with the other guy that you like that I don't really care for, Rodriguez. Yeah. What do they call those? Anyway, whatever those movies are. They show that stuff, but he still has the cool program, and not only that. They only showed 35 millimeter prints.
Yeah.
They showed, which on this night when they showed Boulevard Nights, it wasn't a good print. Mm-hmm. Danny was really bummed out about it, that the color was really, really off. Oh. But that's all they had, But yeah, I remember in the old days when you'd go up to like the Vista, a place like that, where you're watching a movie and all of a sudden the projector would go, and then the movie would be up on the
Yeah.
ceiling, and you're like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just ridiculous stuff, you
Yeah.
know. But you know, we love those movies so much, and we had probably already seen them that we really didn't care. It was just part of the whole experience. But the cool thing about the New Beverly Now and Tarantino thing is that it's beautiful. You know, it's all fixed up, perfect everything. And then when you go to the men's room, you know,
Hmm.
like you have to leave and you, oh man, they have the sound going. So you can sit and or
Yeah.
whatever do your thing, and
Yeah.
then you're listening to
Yeah.
the scenes. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of weird, you know, when
Yeah.
you're trying to pee and you're like, ooh, ooh.
Yeah. Oh, what's happening? Yeah.
Oh, you're chilling. Is that scene? So that's the cool part about it. And you know, he also bought the
The
Vista.
Vista. Yeah, I heard
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. And so, you know, more power to him. I love Reservoir Dogs. He made that movie, Reservoir Dogs, and when I met my friend John Hillcoat, he's a Australian dude. He had made this movie called Ghost with the guy from the Bad Seeds,
Hmm.
the lead singer from the Bad Seeds, and he was showing it at festivals. And at that time, I have a script, you know, called Sleepy about gangs, and I had made these giant like posters, like movie posters, that a friend of mine took to France to the festival to Cannes, and she put them all over, you know. And so John saw one of those and talked to my friend and said, you know, what's this? And it's, oh, it's a movie. So I ended up meeting John Hillcoat when he came to LA to show Ghost,
Hmm.
and for a while he and I were trying to get this movie made. He was going to direct it, you know, Sleepy.
Hmm.
And so John did a lot of music videos, and I started working with him. So he's the guy that I ended up trying to collaborating with for doing the Cypress Hill
Yeah.
movie
Okay.
later on.
Hmm.
The same guy. He did a movie called what's it called? 999. You know the code for Officer Down. It's a recent movie, and
Um.
he did a movie called Lawless. Anyway, he's a really good director. So John and I were hanging out, and he was staying at this house up in the hills. That was the architect was that famous LA architect that done a lot of those cool houses. I can't remember his name, but anyway, I was staying there, and he was sort of subletting house sitting for Monty Hellman, who is the director that hooked up Tarantino with from Mean Streets and Taxi Driver.
Oh, Keitel, Harvey
Keitel.
Keitel.
He hooked up Tarantino with Keitel, and then Hellman said, "You know what? You should direct it." She said that to Tarantino because
Yeah.
Tarantino was trying to get Hellman to direct it.
Right.
You know, you should direct it. Let me introduce you to Keitel,
Hmm.
and then between Keitel and Tarantino, I
Got it.
think that's how it happened that they ended up
Yeah. It's something
making the
like that.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really liked that one. You know, like as far as like your first film, you know, it's just
Yeah.
like incredible. But after that, I just sort of felt like he just kept sort of like avoiding something. I'm not sure what it
Hmm.
is, but it's just like he's inside. He's making movies about movies, kind of
Hmm.
that are not really like real in a sense. I
Huh.
don't know. They seem really phony to me.
Okay. Have you seen just curious, City on Fire?
No,
It's I believe I think it's like a Hong Kong movie. Chow Yun Fat is in it. It's from I think the late like mid '80s maybe, and that's the movie that because you know we were talking about how Tarantino
yeah,
lifts a lot of stuff.
that's that one.
Yeah, that's
City
the
on
one.
Fire.
So
Okay,
check it out. I don't remember the director, but I know Chow Yun Fat's in it, and it's the same
the
kind
Fat
of
Man. Yeah.
yeah,
So
like
I
the code names,
yeah,
the
because you know,
Mexican
yeah, the
standoff.
John Woo, like that whole thing, you know, all of
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah, it's hard. It's hard because he definitely understands movie making,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
and he makes good films, whatever. But it's just I'd rather watch the real movies,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know. Like you see, you know, like you say, you Kill Bill, whatever. You go Bruce Lee, you know, like
The Lady
whatever.
Snowblood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, all of that stuff. He's just like Django. I'm like, and then he got okay. We're back at Tarantino,
That's
and then he got into this thing where he's starting to rewrite history
right.
with like Inglorious Bastards and Django, and then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where
Yeah.
it's like, dude, that's not what happened,
Yeah.
dude. Like there were no like units of like Jews who were like You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Maybe there was, but it's just like this, like Django, like the gunfighter. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's sort of like, to me, it's like it's like it's like all of these horrible things happen and they're real, and then he's over here making comic book shit out of it. You know?
Right. Right.
And then the Tate murders.
Yeah.
They were murdered. They the two white guys didn't come with a flamethrower and like kill them. You know, it's just like bizarre,
Yeah.
beyond bizarre.
I do appreciate that you are into films enough to where it seems you've at least watched them, even though you know you don't like what he does.
Oh, I'll watch
you've
it.
seen the movies.
Yeah. I hated the Hateful Eight.
Hated it.
Hated it.
Oh man.
Oh no. I think the misogynistic piece of crap. You know, the way that they beat up that woman.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I can understand how somebody,
Yeah.
like people are into. I totally understand it.
Are there any like more contemporary filmmakers and movies that you do really do, like people that are out right now? You know,
That I love.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's a lot. I mean, I love Wes Anderson.
Okay, I can't get into Wes Anderson.
Okay,
I've tried, I just can't. Yeah.
So we could have a conversation about that. But Wes Anderson. I like what's his name? Refn? Is that his name?
Oh, Nicholas Winding Refn. Yeah.
I'm a total fan of Matt's. That actor.
Mads Mikkelsen. Yes, Pusher. Right. I haven't seen that yet. I'm trying to find it.
That
really
one
wanna
that
see
he
that.
did, the new one that he did with him. Those two, the Writers of Justice.
Oh, I haven't even heard of that. I didn't know he did a new one. Okay.
It's cool. The one Let the Right One In.
That's a great one. That's the original one, right? Yeah. I saw that for the first time like 5 years ago.
I love all that stuff. What do you call it? Drive.
Drive's great.
I love Drive. Yeah. New films. It's hard for me to get excited. It's not that much. I mean, like, is there anything you like right now?
Yeah, I mean, of course, now I'm suddenly gonna forget.
Yeah, I know. Me too. I'm like that. It's like,
anytime I get. I mean, I've been trying to lately, like over the pandemic, really go back and watch older movies. Again, like I finally watched Persona, Cries and Whispers. I finally watched.
Did you like that stuff?
It's all right. I still need to dig a little more into Bergman. I think I got to see it again. Like I appreciate. I think more so than the stories. Honestly, is the aesthetic. Persona is such a beautiful looking movie. Yeah. Cries and Whispers. But have you seen that one with like everything's red?
Oh yeah, that's Cries and Whispers because it's about cancer. It's about dying.
Yeah.
So it's like the red signifies all that stuff. Yeah. I love that stuff.
One that I saw recently by Bong Joon-ho, the director that like Parasite, Memories of Murder from 2003.
Well, I have to see that.
That one like really kind of impacted me. That's a great one. That's well worth checking out. Yeah. But yeah, I just got the.
It's interesting. It's interesting how we all come at it like from our own perspective because I love Parasite up to a certain point, and then I don't like the ending. And I know Danny loves the ending, but I don't because one of my least favorite things about anything is when people say, "Ooh, wouldn't it be cool if," which is the majority of Tarantino stuff, Wouldn't it be cool if, And it's not cool. The moment you say, "Wouldn't it be cool," it stops being cool.
Yeah.
So that's my feeling about Parasite. Like it was cool up to a certain point. Because you have the conceit of this family, that they do these kind of things, and then it's like and a lot of stuff takes you to a certain place, and you're going, man, we're going to a really cool place, and then they drop the ball, and I feel that they drop the ball because they don't know how to end it. Like they start something and then they get scared and then they run away from it.
Oh man, that's a hot take on that movie. Yeah, that's its own episode right there. I kind of want to get into it, but it's all right. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, Little Puppet and I, we're talking Parasite. Well, that's interesting. I mean, that movie.
Okay, so let's say Parasite, right?
Yeah.
Let's say up to the point where they leave. Mm-hmm. Remember, they leave the rich family. They leave,
like when it's raining,
and then the other family stays.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay. The scammers, they stay. The grifters, they stay. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's bogus that they come back. It's being forced on me. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. It's not organic. What I wanted to see maybe is like that family, the rich family, is the same kind of people that these people are wherever they go. They're gonna scam somebody else that's higher up at them.
Yeah.
And it comes the other way, and it's like,
Yeah.
you got scared. You got scared because you could have gone to the next level and showed me that all of this bullshit is bullshit.
Right.
That everybody feeds off of everybody, and they're over there like doing it to somebody else. I would have been impressed if that had happened. But then they come back and it just becomes this thing of like gore and all that. I was like, man, it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but I love Lady Vengeance. I love what's his name?
Oh, Park Chan-wook, like Old Boy, Sympathy for Miss.
I love Old Boy.
Old Boy is great. That's
the
one of my
original,
favorites.
not the other cochinada. You know.
Yeah, Lady Vengeance, I still haven't seen. I actually just recently watched Joint Security Area. It's the same director. It came out, I think, just a couple years before Old Boy.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
Oh, that's a trip.
It's a really great movie. Yeah, it's the same director as Old Boy.
Wait, am I drifting again?
No, you're okay. You're in a good spot. Do you need a Coke or anything?
I'll just oh yeah, we could do a Coke.
Yeah, let me get you some. And do you want ice too?
If you don't mind, but if you don't have it, that's cool.
I got some.
Oh, those are real.
Yeah, sorry.
That's fine. That will do. Should we like feature the drink? The drink of the day?
Yeah, let's do it. I think I'm gonna pour myself some sorry everyone, we're just taking a little break. Daniel's got his Coca-Cola, original taste, classic. I'm gonna I won't talk about this one too much because I've done it before already, but Sierra Norte, Oaxacan whiskey. I'm doing the yellow corn.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I just figured, hopefully I don't get any wax in here. There we go.
You know, I used to write poetry. That's another thing I did when I was a kid. And one of my poems was called My Drinking Days Are Over. And it's all about Jack Daniels.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Jack Daniels meets You'll Be Sorry. I was at a party once and they had this homemade tequila and the label said You'll Be Sorry.
Huh.
Boy, was I sorry.
Homemade tequila. That sounds pretty sketchy.
Oh man, it was. It was. But so yeah, we were talking about Parasite and those kind of things. And the thing that bothers me about the business and the I don't want to say kids, but the new generations or whatever of filmmakers, that this thing that it became like the Tarantino world of like movies about movies, and then so it's not really like real life or like anything that really means anything to the person that made these films.
Right.
It's like buying a program where you go, let me look at When Harry Met Sally, but I'm gonna make them Latinos.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna, you know what I mean? And it's like that, and this is the same fucking movie.
Yeah.
And to that world within of these new kind of filmmakers, they think it's cool because they all do it. So it validates the whole thing. And then I'm like going, when is the next great filmmaker coming? Because I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, it seems like it's very hard. Well, one, like I think it's hard to be kind of original because so much has been done already. But also it's like in the Hollywood system, it's like, because I mean, you know this, you've worked within it. It's like it's all about the money, right? It's like, well, we know these are for sure things that are going to make us money. So that's what it's all about. And it's like hard to take a chance on anything new. And I think when people do stuff that's kind of original, I mean, sometimes I feel like then people just aren't into it. And then there's movies like Mandy with Nicolas Cage that are kind of
Which one?
weird. Mandy, the Nicolas Cage movie.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I saw Pig. I like Pig.
I wanted to see that. I haven't seen it. Is it worth checking out?
I liked it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to go watch it.
You know, it's not like a big movie, but it's a really good part for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I worked on Matchstick Men. I have a little part in it, you know, and I really liked him in that. There's certain movies that he's really good, and then I love Moonstruck.
Yeah. Okay.
And Raising Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's certain parts that it's like with Keanu. There's certain parts that where Keanu's perfect, and then other parts where you're like, oh, no, he shouldn't have done that. You know?
Right.
Yeah. but certain directors, that you wouldn't think they made that movie, but like Matchstick Men is it's Ridley Scott,
Really?
yeah,
Yeah, I never
and
think.
Ridley Scott did Black Hawk Down, and then he
Yeah.
did Alien. I mean, he's
Mhm.
he's a great director, but when you see him, because I was part of that whole production of Matchstick Men,
Mhm.
and when you work with someone like Ridley Scott, you go, wow, it's just like he knows exactly what he wants. He doesn't waste time,
Yeah.
and it's just like it's not a big deal, you know. And then you see it, and you go, wow. I mean, I don't know. You should maybe check it out.
Yeah.
Check out
Yeah.
Mastic
I'll
Man.
find it.
It's just a little movie, but it's really well done.
Mhm.
That's the difference. It like sometimes it does make a difference when you have money, and sometimes
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. But like I work with A-list crews, and there is a difference.
Yeah.
It's like they don't fuck around.
Mhm.
And then you have your low budget thing where everybody's arguing about like where they should put the camera on, like
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my god.
Just put it down.
Yeah.
Just put it
Yeah, it's
somewhere.
just like this here, this there. I need this, I need that. Okay, you come in, you go, all right, we're
Yeah.
done. Move on.
Yeah.
Not like, and you're like so like, oh, god damn it. It's like, when is the day ever gonna end?
Yeah. And would you say that's like your favorite qualities in a director is just the kind of the calmness of it and just the being prepared or
Not necessarily the comments is that they know what they're doing.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's
because my thing about acting is that it's like I'm not saying that I'm any good at it. It's just my philosophy about it from what I've learned is that you're an empty vessel. Like you
Mhm.
empty. You're not supposed to have anything of your own, and then the director fills it up. So
Yeah.
I serve the director.
Mhm.
So if I don't trust the director, I'm not gonna have a good time because
Yeah.
they're gonna fuck me up. But when you're working with like somebody like that, like Ridley Scott, or like when you're working with Eddie, almost that you have a relationship with,
Right.
like he's not gonna fuck you up, so you go with you do
Yeah.
it. It's just
Yeah.
like
We trust him.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean this is like a little thing that you know makes me smile or whatever. It's just like actors and how they prepare and the type of acting. I've been around Dustin Hoffman, on a few movies, and he's one of my favorites. I love Midnight Cowboy. I don't know if you've seen
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. That's a good one.
and he had the little run like he made. Did you ever see Little Big Man?
No. No.
Oh, it's
No.
great.
Yeah.
And he did The Graduate. I mean,
Yeah.
he's just done so many movies. But in Little Big Man, he plays the soda pop kid. He's like a gunslinger, and he does this little thing where he goes snake eyes, before he
Mhm.
draws, and it's just hilarious. So the times I've been around Dustin Hoffman, I would say, do you mind doing snake eyes for me? And he'd be like, no. And I asked him like several times, and the last time I asked him, he goes, "Yo, man, I told you once, I told you twice, I'm not doing snake eyes for you." I'm like, all right, fuck you.
That was a good impression, by the way.
But he's like, I think he's great, but
Mhm.
but I like his thing where it's like he creates the character. It's just like there's things that you do the same every day. You wake up and you put your right foot first down.
Mhm.
It's like there's just things that we do are automatic, and then you just don't even think about it. To me, like the thing about acting is that you are not yourself. You're supposed to be playing Pedro or whatever. So why would Pedro walk the way that I do, or comb his hair
Mhm.
the way that I do, or talk like this? It's just like, I mean, even when you're playing a cholo, it's just like it's not the same fucking cholo. Hopefully not. Like, I'm not gonna name names, but some actors just like play the same fucking cholo every fucking time. But it's like recently I was working on a Denzel Washington movie, and I love him, and he has that walk. I mean, if you notice it, he has that walk.
Yeah.
In every fucking movie, he has
Yeah.
that walk,
Yeah.
And so I'm working on the tragedy of Macbeth, that he's playing
Mm-hmm.
Shakespearean dude. But I get to see him every day, and I get to see him walk, and he walks. He has the Denzel Washington walk, So we were not allowed on set, so I don't know, But I'm like chuckling. I'm like, I hope he's not doing Shakespearean acting,
Yeah.
walking like a dude in the hood. He has this really cool
Yeah.
little shuffle. But it's just like that kind of stuff. It's really hard, like to not bring all these things. Like fucking what's his name in the Mission Impossible movies?
Tom Cruise.
He his hair is always you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like okay, it's like where like all these characters have the same haircut.
Yeah, yeah, and the same kind of vibe. I almost wonder if some of those people though, where it's so much the name and face, if like
They
they're directed to not be too different because it's like we're paying to see Tom Cruise. You better have the same hair. You better, And the
right.
same with Denzel. I wonder. Do you think that is the case
Mm,
for some people?
I don't know because I'll tell you, I have an example of someone who is not on that, on
Hmm.
that like superstar level. Was just like a guy I know. I worked on a short film that he was doing,
Hmm.
and I was sort of like, you know, I was just hanging kind of thing, and then I said, I made some kind of suggestion. He goes, "Oh no, I do my thing," meaning he's always the same.
Hmm.
And so even on this, like he's gonna do what he knows what to do, and that's it. That's what he does, his thing. And so I'm like, all right, but to me, again, so like if you're talking about performing, ah, you know, it's like I don't see it. But a lot of actors who you love or Toshiro Mifune,
Yeah, yeah.
they were kind of the same every
Mm.
time. But the more you know them, the more you see them, you see that they're doing something a little different.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of him, I think I've only seen him in like the few Kurosawa movies I've seen, so I'm not like super don't know a whole lot about his career, but I'd say just like him from Yojimbo to Seven Samurai, like was a pretty wide range. Just of those two characters. I was almost surprised that Yojimbo was like, oh, that's that same guy.
Yeah, and
But
and and, and yeah, it's just like okay, you're gonna play, like Humphrey Bogart. You're gonna play
mm,
40 gang members, gangsters,
yeah,
and you're gonna get killed every fucking time, in those 40 movies. And it's like, yeah, but you're gonna learn shit, and then you're gonna like when you get to your next level, then you're gonna do something. And like I love Humphrey Bogart, but it's like you could say, well, he always does the same thing. He sounds the same, but it's not. Like when you see it, like you say, he's graduated from, the first movie where he brings out a gun and they shoot him and he's dead,
yeah, yeah,
to when he got to the end and he was just like, like fine whiskey.
right.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm involved with now, and again, it all goes back to the beginning. It's all connected. It's like it goes back to stand and deliver, and it goes back to growing up and in the environment, in the community, in the world that we live in, and it's how women are treated in it. So my friend Vanessa Marquez, who played Ana Delgado in Stand and Deliver, um, there was a wellness check. Somebody called to have someone go and see how she was doing because she had health issues. She had mental health issues, and so I guess somebody wanted to see that, make sure she was okay. So she lived in South Pasadena, and the South Pasadena police showed up at her place. We learned prior to that she had spoken with a friend out of town and had the friend call the fire department. So she was expecting paramedics, and then the police showed up.
Hmm.
And so in the whole process of making sure she was well, 90 minutes into it, they shot her. They killed her. She brought out a BB gun that looked like a real gun, and they said that she pointed at them, so they killed her. So we're doing a documentary about it, called 90 Minutes Later, and we've been doing it for the last 3 years, since just a little after she was killed in August of 2018, and then we had a memorial for her. And then right after the memorial, we started working on this documentary because my friend, who ended up being the director, Cindy Fujikawa, said, well, you're going to do this whole process. Might as well document it. And so I was like, yeah, cool, let's do that. So at this point, actually all that remains now is the document. It's the documentary because the mother already settled, and we don't feel that justice was done.
Yeah.
So in a way, the documentary will try and do that for her. Get some sort of justice. Yeah, and so we have a rough cut. So soon we'll be done with that, and hopefully it will get out there. Yeah.
Right on.
So that's it. That's one of the things I'm involved with, and then I'm also a writer. I have screenplays that I've had over time. Some as old as Stand and Deliver. Like after I finished Stand and Deliver, I wrote Sleepy. I collaborated with my friend, on that. So I wrote it with Bibi Hansen. She's Beck's mom, the singer Beck.
Yeah.
So her and I wrote the script that has mutated over time, and there have been a lot of instances where we almost got it made, and then for one reason or another, it didn't work out. But I'm still trying to get it made. At some point, I will, But it's sort of like a deconstruction of what it means to be a gangster.
Oh, okay.
And obviously, it's loosely based on me. Yeah. But yeah, and then I have I'm trying to do a sci-fi series about a Mexican American family. Well, New Mexican family in New Mexico that I'm trying to get made, and I'm always collaborating. I'm always looking for people to work with. So that's where I'm at. There's a couple of scripts. There's one script I was telling you earlier about a lifer,
Yeah.
a guy that finally comes out, and they used to have these halfway homes, that you go to. I think now they can call them reentry.
Okay.
Whatever. And so there's a script about a guy like that who is trying to, somehow live again after having been in prison his whole life. And it's kind of like when I did American Me, and there was that guy in there who said, remember me. It's just like I'm trying to do this for that guy,
Gotcha.
for those guys. Yeah, sort of like a weird continuation of American Me.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, man. I hope these projects all come to fruition.
I hope so. If anybody has something
ideas.
like that out there, some kind of interesting part, it's just like that's whenever I write something, I always kind of have myself in mind, But then my producer side goes, oh, this guy would be good for that part, and I always end up thinking of somebody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, please, somebody give me something good. Not Tarantino, no.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. It's been a pleasure having you. Thanks so much for joining me and sharing your stories and,
Thank you.
and your time, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for all you do, and keep it going.
Cool. Thanks, man. Cheers. Thank you for listening to the Drinks in a Movie podcast. You can now find us on Instagram at Drinks in a Movie Pod, where we'll be posting photos from all the various films that we discuss. You can also email us at drinksinamoviepod@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and thank you for listening.